Hello, welcome to the Auburn Lake Trails simulations of wildfire and fuels treatments. We're going to take a look at some orientation here. We see the Fire Safe Council boundaries as well as some of the topographic features with the violet down there in the bottom of the drainage and the red on top, with some federal lands here with Bureau of Reclamation and the Bureau of Land Management, and some fire history. Lots of fire coming out of that canyon. Not so much has come across the ridge there, but we do have plenty in the area to be aware of. So it's not necessarily an if, but a when with this kind of scenario. All right, looking at the closer in here, we'll pull up some of these projects. We have the proposed projects and some of the existing projects here. The proposed projects are in yellow with the green overlapping. There is definitely some conflagration here, but we will be able to sort that out. Bringing in the cool projects, the cool Pilot Hill projects, we see the CP2 there, that big fuel break on the left, with Bureau of Reclamation in the blue added in. Looking at our first ignition here, we're coming out of the canyon there towards the confluence on Highway 49. We see on the left here we've got consistent progress moving up the hill from what would be a likely vehicle fire emerged into the vegetation or similar human-caused incident. And as we continue to watch this, we can see how the fuel break definitely slows down some of that initial cross from Highway 49 up towards the community. But obviously, we're not seeing a massive spread right now, but again, the purpose here is to see the changes in fire behavior based on the fuel modifications and where that fuel can actually slow the fire to a stop, as we're seeing with CP2. That's a huge bonus, but it's not necessarily one we're going to see across all areas that are not quite as robust as that large treatment. So continuing that comparison here, we see that the area has been severely impacted from the lack of treatments here, and there is a weak spot that we see in reduced treatments from the Bureau of Reclamation to the west of 193.49. We'll let this run a little bit longer, but definitely we see the emergence of a fire coming out of the canyon there is blocked off by the quarry, in addition to the CP2 and that ridgeline treatment that we see all around the community there. But not necessarily stopping anything once it's in there. So we'll take a look at some more plateau, some higher, some starts up on top there. You'll see that red triangle from the bottom left of the screen come into play. Okay, so again, we're looking at a southwest influence here, consistent of the area with the Pilot Hill RAS station. We don't do any big diurnal modifications here, but we are keeping a steady southwest wind at about 20 miles an hour at 20 foot, which has some effect, but definitely not something that we would see in a large wind event. It's much more mild than that. So where we see that 193 is definitely a treatment area and we didn't necessarily get any reduction in spread from that, that's something again where these evacuation routes are not necessarily made to stop a fire, but they are made to slow down the intensity along those areas to allow for safer evacuation. Looking at our treatment areas on the right, that we definitely see where some slowdowns, but definitely fires moving pretty well through the fuel models that we have in there of grass, shrub, and some shortleaf litter. And again, we'll let this one run out a little longer, but the intention here was to show what looks like from a start from the southwest there and in alignment with the wind across what is a fairly even topography. And we're going to look at a start here, which was the country fire. We're going to run that again with the south wind, approximately 175 degrees. So coming from the south, we see a pretty consistent spread. While I know the exact conditions there of the country fire were a little different, we're going to take the statistical probability of a good southern flow of wind, and we can see that we definitely get some changes, but a lot of the fuel treatments aren't necessarily lined up exactly with that ignition spot. Some slowdowns in the middle there with progress. We can see the footprints a little bit lower, but again, no suppression action is taken, which would probably have a greater effect with the amount of access and population we have in there. But Yeah, just taking a look though, definitely, you know, where it keeps it out of the canyon, coming from uphill, it definitely keeps it out going downhill too. So, you know, the fuel brakes work in all sorts of ways. Moving on here, we'll get to this last one, which includes a possible start out of the middle fork there. You know, not expected, but we did have some of these lightning starts in lower elevations, and it was worth a look to see exactly kind of what it would be if we did get either a lightning strike or, based on the trail system in there, perhaps an abandoned campfire or something similar. But you know, this thing's skunking around. A lot of that short leaf litter in there is not real volatile until it starts to get in alignment, until we start seeing these uphill pushes which are coming through here. So winds are coming out of the west-southwest. We don't have direct alignment even. We actually have counter alignment in some areas, but the slope there with the fuels, that wind is not gonna matter as much. It's not gonna have the greater effect that we would see on that northeast facing slope with the west-southwest wind. So it's going to be a slope-dominated fire. And again, we've got some good slowdown there, holding things up as it comes out of the canyon and hits the edge of the community there. And while it didn't put it out necessarily, we are seeing some spread compared with on the left. Definitely some restriction in advancement across the community there, as well as, you know, moving over there to the north and east. We can't quite slow that one down, but looking good inside the community, and definitely many strategic points to slow it down and or stop it with suppression resources. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Hope this all made sense, and look forward to the next one.